I'm Vladimir Krasnovsky, Media Center Ukraine, Ukraine Forum. I greet you all, welcome all journalists that join us to spread truth about the most important events in Ukraine. The agenda of the briefings for today. At 2:30, we expect Hanna Mahler, Deputy MOD of Ukraine. Also will be Alexei Gromov, Deputy Head of the Operative Administration of General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine. Alexei Natochi, Head of Operative Administration of National Guard of Ukraine. We're speaking about operative situation on the front line of Ukrainian-Russian war. And today, Pavlo Kyrylenko is online with us, the head of Donetsk Military Administration. Paul, your floor is yours. Speaking of the situation in Donetsk region, how last day was. Good day. It was intense. There was intense shelling across a whole contact line in Donetsk direction. Krasnogorivka, Avdiivka, Toretsk, and close to Gorlivka. And there was also shooting at Bakhmut, Slavyansk. 2 missile strikes on Kramatorsk, on the city. So all the contact line is under fire. And the enemy periodically strikes at us. The positions of armed forces of Ukraine did not change. The attempts of offensive of the enemy. There were attempts of offensive from the enemy on Donetsk direction. They were unsuccessful. They suffered losses and pulled back. Could you update us on the information about the casualties from Chasiv Yar, from strikes from Chasiv Yar? Today in the morning, I reported about that to the Office of President. The cleaning of debris is finished. Upon the results of this cynical strike on residential area, 48 people have died. One of them is a 9 years old boy, and a lot of casualties, a lot of wounded. We stopped cleaning the debris, and I think the professionalism and courage of our search and rescuers, the rescue service of Ukraine in Donetsk region, that from the Saturday night when the shooting started, they maximally engaged to clean the debris and involved over 350 personnel and cleaned practically 500 metric tons of ruined buildings, the bricks, fragments of roof, and all the construction materials. Naturally, that's a horrible disaster. 48 killed civilians. And you said about shooting at the night or over last 24 hours. What is the situation about casualties there? Over the last day, I can state that regretfully, 24/7 we have, and daily we have, Donetsk region has losses among civilians, wounded, and regretfully killed also. Over the last day, 3 persons died and 4 were wounded. At the situation at 10 o'clock in the morning today. Clear. We have a question from the journalists in the room, please. Victor International Forum. I have a few questions. First, we know that in this region there is no gas supply now. How would this problem be tackled in the autumn and winter? How would you pass that season in those conditions? Just yesterday, I have conducted the final session on preparing to the heating season without gas. How we will do that? First of all, there was borderline amount that we have in Donetsk region for residents. First is safety of residents, and then regularly speaking of the heating season, not least important, is the minimal amount of people necessary to operate in the heating season, to save our people from cold. So those residents who stayed could pass the season. First evacuation, that minimal amount, 335,000 in Donetsk region. This amount calculating the tools that we will procure. The tools that we'll procure, the equipment, will be convectors and furnaces that will be partially used for cooking and partially for heating of residential areas in the winter season. First, of course, there will be compact living. So if it's a big apartment, we would ask to live in one room. And most important is preparing the objects of critical infrastructure. Installing mobile heating stations on different kinds of fuel. I have sent the coordinate letter for the budget that's necessary to this end, and part of those funds will finance the way that part of that funds will be provided by military administrations and local councils. All the museums and universities could move to the safe regions. The museum, excluding Mariupol, all the assets were moved to other regions. The higher education institutions their absence that they have issues. They're high schools only that stayed on the occupied territories, but not the universities, except for Mariupol. Just yesterday, I had a session or law enforcement, and the issue was regulating the issue of paying the salaries to pedagogues who stayed on the occupied territories. And after that, I also sent a letter to the Prime Minister with our proposals to regulate this problematic issue, to conveying the standpoint of our military administration. And the last question, considering the mass evacuation of the population conducted in the region, do you have enough of medical personnel in the hospitals? Medical personnel in hospitals is conducted the way that the doctors that stay in our region, they're the ones that involved with conduct necessary operations, first related to combat, then doctors that provide first necessary aid to the population that stays in the region, about 350,000 people, and the medical personnel that's necessary to stabilize of status of sick people that come from the combat area, sick and wounded. So that's the amount of personnel that stayed. The hospitals that we evacuated, that the majority of hospitals, and I constantly am in the region. We work on the issues, on establishing work up to the moment when we first stop the enemy, then deoccupy the region, Even in this period, we work for doctors in Donetsk region to have where to work and what equipment to work with. We expect this enforced offensive on Slavyansk and Kramatorsk from the enemy, from Russians. What is the situation right now? What can you say about that? I know the situation, and I stick to the standpoint that each one in their direction has to comment regarding the authority. I think in more detail there'll be comments from Ministry of Defense and from the armed forces. What I can say personally, that concentration of efforts, we understand, we're aware of it, and we see the force of enemy on the Slavyansk direction. What is the amount of battalion tactical groups, Slavyansk Kramatorsk direction, and Zhushkovka, and coordinated efforts. We align them with the strategic commanders, and we focus on stopping the enemy first, right now. And Slavyansk and Kramatorsk are the most dangerous directions now, and Bakhmutsk direction, yes. And we are aware of that. What is the humanitarian situation right now in the territory of the Donetsk region that is under control of Ukraine? Is there delivery of rhythmic delivery of everything needed for residents that remained? Regarding the routes and giving the food sets and foodstuffs in the stores, small stores and big stores, they're there. And sales of meds is conducted. The majority of banks moved out of the region. There is a list of cities where the ATM machines are working. That are cities under control of Ukraine, Kramatorsk, Selidova, Dobropilia, where the ATM machines are working, where people can withdraw money and use cash. Of course, we cannot provide a full range of services, and the majority of population left, but to provide work of critical infrastructure, ensure operation of food stores that could provide food for the people who stayed, it's ensured. The same works for the routes of transferring foodstuffs and first aid items. We heard you, Pavlo. Thank you for finding the opportunity to be with us today. Thank you. Thank you. It was Pavlo Kyrylenko, head of Donetsk Military Regional Administration. I'm Vadim Krishnalki, and this is Media Center Ukraine, Ukram Forum. The next briefing will be at 2:30.